Welcome again to LQ Interviews. Today on the show we've got our very special guest, Mr. CallanLoF.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks again for agreeing to be on the show.
Alright, so I am ready for whatever questions you gotta throw at me.
Yep, well, let's start at the beginning. When did you first start on Biotube?
I started in 2010 on a website called Mock Pages, but I just posted a bunch of terrible mocks on there. And I decided to, because I before that I'd made a ton of terrible Lego Batman just live action videos on like an old video camera. So I finally turned about 13 around like November, and so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get my YouTube channel started. I think that was when I turned 30. It actually might have been a little later, but any point is, I decided I wanted to get started on Bionicle stuff. And so in January of 2011, I started making terrible videos. Yay. And yeah, they were pretty much just really low frame rate stop motions and a couple really bad lit and awful reviews with terrible microphone quality. Just really bad stuff. So don't look at it. You can if you really want to, but I would not recommend it.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. Was it? I forget. It was your not subs. It was like your some year anniversary video.
Yes, this year hit 4. Yeah, I showed a couple bits from some of those older ones. They are not pretty.
Yeah. I have seen all your videos. I went back and watched those.
Oh my gosh. I applaud you for surviving that. Oh.
So at what point did your quality start to improve?
That's very that really depends on your point of view. I'd say it probably started upwards a little bit from just being like negative, was when I actually started doing voice acting. Actually, when I started, it probably went down a bit because the voice acting was terrible. I started off doing a video by myself, and then when I started getting other people, like their microphone quality wasn't very good either. Shadow Gear, for a while, he had a very, like, whenever he'd record for other people, it seemed like when he actually tried to use a microphone, he'd always have a huge echo. And my friend Kasi, he had the same problem. So I remember I had a video with the two of them, and like it was me talking to 2 echo chambers. It was pretty bad at first. And well, it's still pretty bad today. But at least now you don't hear over everything.
Yeah, it seems like with the being of any YouTube channel, bad mics always plague it.
Yeah, but when it actually I actually started being a little bit more happy, like with my video. Well, obviously at the time you think, oh, this video is good. I like this video because you release it, but then you look back and after you've improved, and it's a fact of life that always happens to everyone. Everyone who makes content that's visible to other people, etc.
Yeah,
you get the idea. Anyway, so I'm trying to think of like a really good point where I think I started to get a little better. I'd say I need to just probably around when I started doing. At the very beginning, I started using a newer version of iMovie, and it didn't allow for a very good frame rate, or at least if you really wanted to mess with it, you could probably figure it out. But at first, it was just so slow, and so I moved back to an older version of iMovie, and I found that that worked out a lot better. And because I'm extremely cheap, I'm still using that old crappy version of iMovie to this day, and I'd say the part where it started to become like passable maybe was towards like the second half of Mata, probably towards the end of Mata, really, because the first few episodes of Mata on the Custom Bionicle channel are pretty awful themselves, and they got a little better. I think the happiest I've been with a video after I released it was with the Mata episode play, because I did some
Yeah.
cool things in it. Like I had my friend said the editor do like a big fire effect. I liked the script. I got to have Tahu, Onua, Liwa acting off each other. I just really had fun making that one. And I think after that I felt like I felt like I was actually doing the things that I really wanted to do, because I remember seeing, because I mean I don't have like tons of memory from before I was on YouTube, but I remember being really little and looking on YouTube at times, and I remember seeing some videos and feeling like I wanted to do those kind of things, except I wanted to make them the way I wanted to make them. Like you see some of the old like 2008 Bionicle Mystica stuff. Like I probably saw a couple Kyler videos and those old things, but I had no part in that community until 2011, when pretty much all the dramatic stuff was gone.
It's kind of strange. I find some of the top people, like in the Bionicle community sites, channels and stuff, they didn't come around until after Bionicle ended.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. A lot of that. Well, it's partially because a lot of those people who were before Bionicle ended were like 13, 14, 15 at the times, and now 5 years later they're 18 to 23. Kyler's still here technically, and he's like what 20, he's probably approaching 25. He just had a birthday recently. So yeah, it's there. So yeah, a lot of those people just are not as big anymore, and the fact that the internet has just gotten bigger and bigger after Bionicle's return. Like when Bionicle ended, there were probably the biggest channels on YouTube probably had 6 million subscribers. Now there are channels with like 30 million, and at least, well, actually, that's probably just like a couple, but so there's obviously a much bigger audience on the internet now than there was 5 years ago, and so that's had a little bit of an effect. I mean, because people had lots of subscribers back then, but it felt like a much slower build up. Like I'm starting to get to the point where a bunch of other not even a bunch, only a few of the original Biotube people got, and they were huge back then to the community, and I've done that in the past like 8 months. It's been crazy. I don't. It's just sort of boosted recently. That's when I've felt more like the most excited about making videos, when when Bionicle started to return, because it brought that audience more people were looking up Bionicle again, like lots and lots of people, and so I think that really helped just suddenly boost my channel in the last 8 months, and it's gotten kind of crazy. I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, it's probably, I'd dare say, one of the biggest Bionicle stop motion channels out there, if not the biggest, now that iBionicle's kind of gone.
I've since passed him up because he's not doing anything. He's now trying to do comic stuff on Facebook and DeviantArt, but I guess he's too busy to do that kind of thing. His animations were quite a bit more well animated than mine, but so you got to cut him slack for how much how much effort he put into his craft.
iBionicle is kind of like the standard a lot of biotubers will judge themselves by.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say more so on animation, because his humor was sort of a style of his own, and some people liked it, other people not as much, but most people generally have the consensus that he made pretty great videos overall. In fact, I would dare say that some of his earlier ones, where stop motion wasn't quite as good, are some of the funnier ones than even some of the more recent ones where the stop motion is top notch. But that's kind of irrelevant. That's just my opinion.
So you were touching this but when did you really start to know your channel was growing? When did you really feel it was becoming huge? Huge in Biotube standards. We judge ourselves by different standards than a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I remember starting and having all kinds of crazy ideas. I want to hit 4,000. No, what am I saying? I want to hit 1,000 subscribers after my first year on being here. And I was like, I think I got to maybe like 400, and I was like, well, that's still pretty good. I was still happy mostly about it, but I was kind
Hey,
of
400 people's
yeah, I know.
really not bad.
No, it's not. Um, and and after a couple years, I think it was last year that I actually hit 2,000, like around maybe a month or so ago last year that I hit 2,000, and that's how crazy it's been.
Yeah.
And how, like, I mean, how much of the boost has been with Bionicle's return. And
Yeah, it's
so,
very strange how that boost happened. Even me, I was part of Bionicle community for that time, but actually, I wasn't part of the Biotube community until last year either. It just seems a lot of people, even before Bionicle returns, people were coming to YouTube for Bionicle stuff for some reason.
yeah, well, I think it was a lot of just the excitement of it, like the leaks, really, because those leaks, I can't believe it's almost been a year since those
Yeah.
leaks surfaced. Um, it almost makes me kind of sad because while I'm definitely really happy with the new sets in some ways, I was hoping for a little more diversity from the Hero Factory. I think the biggest problem I have with the newest sets are the fact that they haven't done anything new with the shells. They're pretty much just the same HF
Yeah,
shells.
I
Which,
totally agree. If you hear any of our podcasts, I've touched on that all the time. They need better shells.
yeah, because I mean they gave us the armor attachment, and that's cool, but like
Yeah.
that's one piece. And if you made new shells, it would actually feel more in touch with the world. Because obviously, as much as some people would like it, they're not going to go back to all the old
Yeah.
Technic stuff. But they could at least sort of recapture it. I mean, they've sort of recaptured it with the mask, and those are
Yeah.
pretty cool. But the fact that these new shells aren't that like they don't have that much detail. Like if they kept the small shell, go ahead, because it's so small that you can, the smoothness of it doesn't really matter. But some of the bigger ones that they keep using, it's just so smooth. It's like, give us at least one new shell that
Yeah.
looks a little more in line with a mythical world than like a smooth Hero Factory environment, which is why it worked in that old line.
Well, there's always hope for the future. You know, they've got to do something different eventually.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully, I mean, it's hard because I've talked with my friends a lot about it, and they've mostly given up hope with this new generation in terms of because the story is not the greatest, but and I'm not entirely sure the story will get better, but I do hope at least they put a little more effort into the sets if it gets bigger and bigger.
Well, we've got like 3 books coming this year alone, so we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. That'll be interesting. It's kind of like when they started catching up on Bionicle
Yeah.
because like they didn't make books in the first couple years, and then
It was like, what was it? The first 3 years were released in like 3 months.
yeah, we got the 2001 book and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've had those books are fun.
Speaking of old Bionicle, what's your story with that? When did you really get into Bionicle originally?
I remember it was probably around early 2003. I can't remember the exact year, but I do remember going to the store and first wanting to try something different. I saw Tahu Nuva and I got him, and I was really excited. And I had a lot of fun playing with him. But it's kind of crazy how it turns out because I still remember the feeling of like being a little kid and running around with the toy in my room, but feeling like, I only have this one guy. I can't do anything with him. And now it's gotten a little crazy the opposite. I now have more Bionicles than I can know what to do with, which is, I guess, good, but
Yeah.
it doesn't bode well with having to deal with moving out and for heading to college. I'm definitely going to be a little more limited than I am now later this year, but
But hey, your
I'm still
kids are
gonna-
going to have an awesome collection to go over when they're older.
yeah, my little brother Jojo is going to have the time of his life. I'll probably return and my giant Makuto mock will be in ashes, and I'm like, oh well. So yeah, that in the original, that's around 2003 was when I got into it, and it pretty much picked up really quickly from there. I remember getting all the Toa Nuva. I was so excited. I got all the Toa Metru too, all the Rakshi. I really liked all that stuff. It was around 2005 when I dropped off buying like all of them. That was probably when my cousin and I started like, all right, you buy some of the sets and I'll buy some of the sets, and we can just have them all together when we hang out. And that's mostly what I did. I didn't buy all the sets. After that, I don't think there was a single wave after that where I bought like all of one wave. Except for the new wave, because Bionicle's back. Yes. Although I'm not sure I'm going to do that for the skeletons, because they're not so good.
Skeletons aren't bad, but they're not great.
Yeah.
There's a few I like more than others.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, that was pretty much my history with the original Bionicle. The most recurring thing I could say is that I always had an attachment to the red character, because I guess I'm a racist. I liked all the red characters. No one else. I would like bring them everywhere because I'm a dumb kid. And I'm like Toa Metru Vakama, bring him everywhere. Toa Hordika Vakama, bring him everywhere. Toa Naikajawa, bring him everywhere, etc. etc. Akar, Tahu Star, done. And then I was sad.
What would you say your favorite year was story-wise, and what year set-wise?
Oh, that's a good question. 2001 is obviously great. It's got a good story. Obviously, it's starting off, so you don't know that much. But it has tons of great sets, and I know because I've gone back and bought a few, and I have yet to use them. Some of them. I got Kadak and Gadak. That's 2002 technically, but that's a great set. And I've gotten some of the Rahi, the Kane Rebels. Those are awesome, really fun function sets. And yeah, they're not the most posable things, but the gimmicks were just so good. And I feel like that's kind of a trade-off that we have with the new year. The posability is really great with pretty much everything except maybe the Lord of Skull Spiders. But the gimmicks aren't as diverse. I mean, obviously the Toa mostly have the same gimmicks, but we don't have as many other animal sets that have so many different gimmicks. And which is funny because the one that we do have, the Lord of Skull Spiders, has a pretty fun gimmick, but it's not very posable. So it's probably the most like the old sets, really, in terms of functionality.
That and the Technic build.
Oh yes, it was a very fun toy to build. I really liked the Lord of Skull Spider building. That was a lot of fun. But oh gosh, back to the question. I keep going off. I'm sorry. This is gonna be like the most
that's fine. It's more interesting.
Yeah,
it's always more interesting off topic.
But so my favorite year overall. Oh, it's so hard. I have such a nostalgia for 2002 because that's the year I started, or well, technically 2003 because the Nuva were technically they were 2002, but I always remembered them as 2003 when I was a kid, and I just had so much fun. I was excited for the movie. I bought the movie. I got all the Toa Nuva, and I was so happy. So I did really like all the story stuff, and it's funny because back then I didn't actually have the appreciation for all of the Takua stuff. Back then, I only knew about Matanui Online Game 2, which was a glitchy mess.
I remember trying to play Matanui Online Game 2 and it was still online.
Yeah, that was the same thing with me, and of course it never really worked. So I was so frustrated. It took me like until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, probably even less, that I found out about the original Matanui Online game and played it. And found out how great it was, because I it's so funny. I was really out of touch with Takua, which is funny because he was the main character of Mask of Light, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? I did not have any attachment to him prior, even though he'd been in like the focus of a Game Boy game, a computer game. It's kind of funny that was the way it was, but I still obviously like the movie and so yeah, I'd say overall story-wise, probably 2003. It's so hard to pick between them all. Although at the same time, 2006 would make one heck of a movie if you chopped off some of the. There was a couple silly things, like they had like one test where Motoro died and came back to life, just for next year him to do the same thing again, except not coming back to life that time. So cut that out. Cut out some of those little things that they threw in there, like in the books. That weren't as good, and you'd have one heck of a movie. It makes me sad that they actually cut off making movies at that after the third one, because if you really think about it, a lot of the characters in the movie they already had models for. The Toa Nuva, they don't change again, so they could just use the Toa Nuva models from 2000 3. You got the 6 Matoran. I bet you the only reason they didn't do it is because they'd have to make the Akaku and Miru masks models, which they never made models for in the movie.
That's what I always found strange about Mass Effect. No Lee Matoran at all.
No, it's so sad. And then they have one in Metro Nui. Like, I turn if I alternate the flow. Do it. And that was Kongu, even though he had a Ruru. So that was funny.
One thing, though, I always thought about it, it would have been very dumbed down if they made a movie out of it, because it was much darker than the other Bionicle years.
That's a good point. It probably would have been suppressed a little bit. But at the same time, they had some, like, murder going on in 2005. Like, they were killing spiders. Spiders committing suicide? That's not
but who cares about spiders?
That's true. But it's still suicide. Kids, maybe that's part of the reason. Who knows exactly why they stopped doing the movies with Miramax. But yeah, that was... Anyway, back on topic. 2006 and 2003 would make great stories. And sets, 2001's awesome. And 2006 was really cool in that it was the last year where they actually made a new... Like, obviously, like, did pretty much the whole redesign of everything. Because typically until that point, except for 2001 through 3, of course... New Toa had like new bodies, new different limbs. Like they changed the basic structure of them every time. Though some things would stay the same, like the Toa Hordika had one half Nuva arm. For the most part, like they really changed up the design. And 2006 was when that era ended because they really liked the Anika design, and so instead of just making it over and over again, they decided to do variations of it, which worked all right in Mari, worked all right in 2008, but then by 2009 it was just so tired. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even though I still like some of the sets of their own appeal in 2009, it was just like they really, the only thing they gave us new were hands and heads. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of why Bionicle dropped, because I feel like it would have been a bit more interesting if they just stayed inside like the helplessness of fighting the ultimate power from the inside. Mm-hmm. But instead they went to 2009 outside with Matanui. But, well, that's what they did. And 2009 wasn't the greatest, and then it died, and it's sad. Anyway, back on topic again.
Touching on what we just got, what would you say your least favorite and sets and year would be? Set and story.
People hate on the stars a lot, and the sets aren't the greatest. It probably would be the stars in the sense that they're those not so great Avmatoran builds. They're very simple, so yeah, they probably were the worst sets. The story wasn't the worst ever. I mean, it was not the greatest though, because they had to rush the ending. I mean, I guess it's nice that they actually gave it an ending. They could have just been like, 2009 was unsuccessful, done. No ending for you. But people would have been so mad, so they felt like they had to rush something.
People are mad anyways, though.
That's true. but they gave us an ending, so I guess they felt like their conscience was clear. So yeah, after that, I guess sets, they were rushed and small. I remember seeing the stars for the first time, being like, "Oh, they're gonna make these on like the sides, so they'll be like a paying tribute while the new story's going on, so you can like get more characters." Wait, where? That's it? Oh, and I was like, "Oh, it's over." Oh, so yeah, that was probably. At the same time, Tahu's Mystica mask was so disappointing. Not as a mask itself, because it's an okay mask, but it's Tahu. That's Tahu's face. Yeah. Why does he have a spinny blade weapon? That's not Tahu. In 2008, the Mystica were probably some of the laziest uses of the reusing of the Anika bodies and Paraka bodies. I mean, people complain about the Anika body being reused. The Paraka body is even worse for reusing, though, especially considering every time they turned it backwards. With the Paraka, it was forwards. With the Toa, it was back. Like, everyone after that, it was backwards, and it looked weird. I think Malum might have been forwards. I can't remember. I didn't get him, so. But yeah, that's just me talking to myself about dumb sets. Overall point is, least favorite year story-wise. A lot of people might say 2005 because, in the sense, yes, it is basically entirely pointless. It's like, this backwards story that we did in 2004. Let's do more of it. Did you want to see Vakama and everybody again? No? Well, you're gonna. But the story actually ended up being really cool, especially the elements in play. I just felt like it would have been cooler if, because there's always the party that's like, but what's going on with all our characters that we already know? Because these characters are already going to become Turaga. Mm-hmm. Yet some of the stuff with Rudaka and Sidorak, they were like really cool in the movie. So there was some good story stuff in 2005. I think that 2009 was probably the weakest story-wise, and that at the beginning, it's interesting that they're sort of doing something completely different. Then halfway through the year, we get Motonui back, and Motonui is basically just a boring cardboard cutout, which is kind of what he's supposed to be. I felt like Motonui was basically just a story point, in that at the end of the story, traditionally, you just think he'd be like, "Hey guys, thanks for doing this, saving me. You did good." The end. But no, now he's a character. And I just don't feel like that's an interesting story to tackle, a powerful leader cast out and has to reclaim his kingdom. But I feel like it's been done before, and it's been done better before. And with Motonui, even though they had some really good voice actors in that movie, but some of them were terribly misused, like James Arnold Taylor as Barracks. And then Michael Dorn as Motonui. He sounded cool, obviously, but he was just kind of boring. So it probably had the weakest overall story, especially in the sense that it could have had the potential to get better, but it was just so uninteresting on its own that it basically didn't sell as well and led to Bionicle's doom. And so I think that probably serves as the biggest reason why it's the worst year story-wise, because obviously the story doesn't always sell the line, but reused character sets combined with just a not that engaging story meant less than stellar, not as stellar sales. Maybe not less than stellar sales. They still sold. Just they didn't do any Roxy numbers or anything like that.
Roxy numbers. Someone should coin that term for best-selling Lego sets.
Yeah, that's true, because it's funny. I never realized in 2003 that was actually just going to be it until it was years later that I was like, wait, they were going to end it after 2003? I mean, it made sense with all the story stuff, but I just didn't expect them to do that because I'm a little kid and I'm wanting it just I want to see more of all this Bionicle stuff. And the fact that I guess the Borak Cal didn't sell that well, which makes sense because they were
the Borak Cal are some of the weakest sets in my opinion. There's total rehash. You talk about the Nika build being a rehash. The Borak Cal are literally the exact same thing but recolored.
It's true. At the same time,
they're cool awesome though. I know. Sets, so. I love the silver.
I know. Yeah. Especially that's the one thing I got to give those sets the biggest hand on. Those silver hands. I love those so much. Of course.
Then everyone got sick of silver later. Maybe if they would have included those silver hands, we would have liked them better.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly. Lego should have. It seemed like Lego sometimes had a problems of doing things a little too much. The Borak sold super well. Let's do them again. I mean. Cool from a going back and collecting standpoint, bad from a let's make a new wave of villains standpoint. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they were definitely the biggest rehashes. You're entirely correct there. Anyway, so what was I saying? I can't even keep track. I guess, yeah. So 2009 was probably the weakest story-wise. And 2010 was probably weakest set-wise overall.
Okay. I'd probably agree somewhat with that. And I'd say maybe the story, I'm one of the 2005 haters just because I didn't like what they did with Vakama.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Greg has always been like, they never should have made Vakama evil. And yeah, I didn't like that when I was young either. But I felt like the way they handled it in the movie was probably the best possible way they could have done it in terms with Vakama is supposed to be the wise elder, and yet he's the one who becomes evil. Why are we really doing this? Movie handled it pretty decently, I think the biggest problem with the movie, though, is the fact that, well, not the biggest problem, just sort of odd thing, is that Matau's the one who has the big beef with him. When in the 2004 movie, like, Anu is the biggest jerk. Anu is the one who's real. Like, Matau's jokingly mean, but Anu is the one who's like seriously being such a terrible person to pretty much everyone.
In the story, Greg said Anu pretty much has no friends, didn't he?
Anua, he might have.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Oh, man.
He's like, because of the way he was, he never really made friends with any of the other Turaga like they did.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. Well, he seems sort of like just the wise cutout guy in the Monog game. So, but then again, Greg didn't really have any control over the Monog game. Mm-hmm. So who knows? Maybe if he'd written those, he would have made him like a bitter old man.
And Nog written by Greg. Someone should make that.
That would actually be interesting to see. There'd probably be some silly jokes of like writing in Velika in there. That would be funny.
Yeah.
Just have Velika pop in and be like, "Guess what's coming, guys? Don't underestimate me. I'm a great being."
Velika was there the whole time.
Yeah, just have Velika ghost following everybody. Or something, like, because he's a great spirit. I assume he can be like a ghost. He's Velika. He can do whatever he wants, I guess. Anyway.
It's like the Mask of Life, except for when it can't.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so let's step back from Bionicle for a minute. What do you collect very many system sets at all?
A little bit. Yeah, I probably did more system at first. Before the Bionicle, not tons. The themes I remember having the most of were Lego Harry Potter, Lego Spider-Man, of course. I love Spider-Man. I loved Lego Batman when it came out. I really wish I'd taken better care of those minifigures because people sell them for like $30 a piece.
Wait, they do? Because I found one of those in a box I got from a garage sale the other day.
Well, then take care, my friend, because those things are like. Bricklink people are vicious. Like, you want the original Bane minifig? $20.
Wow.
Original Joker minifig? $30. It's crazy. And the original Joker minifig is much better than the newer one in my opinion. So if you got one of those, you're set. But yeah, I really liked those themes a lot. In fact, I just recently posted a terrible, just a video I took on like a camera that was all silent of just me like playing with the Bat boat set with Killer Croc. That was like, I guess that was my first video technically. So I just threw that on my second channel. Like, there it is. So that's fun. And I've sort of kept up in that. I've occasionally gotten some of the superhero sets. I've sort of fallen out of like just being a big Lego collector, mostly because I've just gotten more into the Bionicle stuff, and I've spent more money than I should on that stuff. Like I ended up going back and collecting all the original Mata masks. It was, and I'm for Mata the show. Although I didn't really end up using them for the show.
You used quite a few of your Pohatos in the video you released today.
Oh, that's true. I was really happy about that one. I think that was one of the main reasons I wanted to make that video. It's like, I need to use these masks I got. And that was, I really liked using those, doing the effects and stuff like that.
Me and Chris often talk about this. Mask collecting can be very addicting.
Yes, very addicting. I just did another order on eBay to get a bunch of Nuva masks recently, and I think I ended up getting like almost all of them for $50, so I'm really happy about that. But
Chris would be, if Chris was here, he'd be bragging about how he got almost every 2001, 2002 mask for like $50 back a few years back.
Oh, lucky man.
Yeah,
good job.
And he didn't know their value at the time. Chris was like totally disconnected from the community, and he just happened to come across those.
Oh, yeah, there are lots of awesome stories of people coming across old stuff like that. Like a friend of mine apparently just went to Legoland, California, and in the Hero Factory building section, they still have 2001 masks. Like, he had a brown Hal, that thing that he built there. I'm like, how? What? How? I went to the one in Florida, and they still just have the terrible, the HF parts. Well, not terrible HF parts, but, not as much you can make with them. So he had more options. I was jealous. Anyway, I'm saying anyway too much, aren't I?
So I see recently you did a Lego Avengers video. Do you collect very many of those sets?
A few. I not as I. I'm really being really specific here. Not as many as I kind of want to, because like there's always a part of you that wants to be like, you see all those other Lego people making some pretty awesome stuff, and sometimes you see things like the voice acting is not quite up to par, and as what I would like to do, and I'd be like, I want to make that, but at the same time, I don't want to pay $50 just to get the Captain America and Quicksilver minifigs. I'm sorry, I don't really feel like it.
Yeah.
But I do get a couple of them when I like really want to. So I got the Iron. What am I? How am I forgetting this Hulkbuster suit? I got that set. I was really happy with that, so I made that video. Jojo actually got the Captain America minifig in that one, so I just stole it from him and just threw that video together. I actually, out of nostalgia, I went back and got a Lego Spider-Man set from the old stuff because I really like the old Lego Spider-Man minifigs, and unfortunately, all of mine have been scratched and like beaten to heck over the years. And I went back and got one of those, and I'm really happy. So you're definitely gonna get another. I'm working on a Lego Spider-Man video as it is. New breaking news, whatever.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yep. So that will come eventually. And I got the new Ant-Man set too, so I hope to use
that's
that.
a really cool set.
It is. It's one of the better ones recently, and I have no idea why, but I went to Target to because Jojo told me some of the new summer one sets, like with the Spider-Man with the red boots, he told me they were in Target, but I think he was wrong. So I went to Target and they were wrong, and they weren't there. So I checked Walmart and I saw the Ant-Man set, and for some reason, like so many of the sets, even some of the newer brand new sets, were marked discounted. The Ant-Man set was marked from $20 to $15.
Whoa!
And I'm like, what? So I obviously bought it. I ended up buying some more Toa. I ended up buying like Gali, Onua, and Palatu again too, because I just So I'm not a smartest spender, really, but they were on discount, so might as well.
Going back to Bionicle again, I'll touch that. What would you like to see in the future of this new generation of Bionicle?
Probably a little less Halloween, because it sounds like we got skeletons and spiders, and I think they're like I have no idea, but I think I heard rumors of like ghosts something. Have you heard anything like that? I'm not sure if it's ghosts,
I've heard
but something like that.
People are just assuming. I know one thing from leaks in Ninjago: those are never right.
Oh, ghosts. yeah, Ninjago never did ghosts.
Actually, they did do ghost.
Or did that?
Yeah, this summer wave is ghost.
Oh, now it's ghosts. Okay.
Yeah, but that's why I'm thinking these Bionicle rumors are coming from. People are just assuming we're going to buy it because Ninjago did ghost.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Bionicle is basically copying Ninjago in their skeletons and... Well, they haven't done spiders as much, but the skeletons thing is... I'm not incredibly like, okay, we saw this with Ninjago. Do we really have to do it with Bionicle too? Especially with how more serious Bionicle kind of is compared to Ninjago. So yeah, I'm not crazy about the whole skeleton thing. It's hard to say, but like some of the vehicle stuff was really cool. And if they went back to doing some more vehicle things, I think that would be awesome. If they really, it seems like they have more investment in doing functions again, so that's neat. So I feel like they should actually really take more advantage of that, because they've done that a little bit. Like the skull grinder mechanism is like, well, no, not the skull grinder. I think it's the skull basher. It's like the coolest mechanism ever. But the biggest problem, I think, is that they need to get over their laziness with that Hero Factory bone body. Get rid of that body piece, because it is making the figures worse than they have to be. The new Toa sets, the biggest complaint is that the arms hang off back a little too much, and that those ball joints are exposed.
Oh, yeah.
Get rid of that piece. Make something slightly altered, and they look great. Just get rid of that piece. Same problem with this wave. Like Skull Basher's got that awesome mechanism, but it's like hanging way off his back. Get it a little more incorporated, and it'll be like fantastic. People will look over the fact that they made the skeleton bones just so they could make limbs without having them have an exposed ball joint in the middle, and so they don't have to armor them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd look over that if like it looked awesome and it had a good body structure, but it doesn't really, and that's why I'm probably not going to get that set. Even though it does have a cool looking function. Nope. Anyway, but yeah, so I'd tell you, cool vehicles with functions, stuff like that. I'd like to see them actually, like the Scourge of Skull Spiders, really try and do cool stuff with the functions again, or do vehicles like do stuff that felt more like Bionicle. Like you don't have to do cars or anything like Ninjago. But like the way Bionicle did it originally, it felt in world. It didn't feel like they were just shoving like a car into Bionicle, like just like an average Jeep or anything. It felt incorporated in the world. So, which I honestly don't feel like they captured that with Ninjago really, because I just don't really think ninjas really need vehicles. Well, I mean, it depends on the vehicle. Like boats, fair enough, but like dragons, that's cool. But cars and flying ships, that's a little weird. But yeah.
What about story-wise?
Story-wise, that's a good question. Well, honestly, I feel like they kind of missed a big opportunity story-wise, because like I was discussing with my friends, and I feel like this is just an idea we had. They could have done the whole thing, like do something a little different, like the Toa show up, or if I had the decision, this is how I would do it. The Toa show up, and everything seems fine, because like Akimu and Makuta were like these, or well, we actually just hear about Akimu and how he was like this beneficial. This sponsored, folks. Anyway, he was like a great leader or whatever, and now he's just sort of he's hired all these skull spiders as like secret police, like they're spying on everybody, and now everything's just sort of like Big Brother, and only like the protectors are like realize that something more is going on, and so they're the ones who are helping the Toa through all this. And that way, one, you get like you can have the actual villages more incorporated into the story, because right now it's like the villages exist, you have to protect them by going away from them entirely and fighting entirely unrelated crime. Well, it's kind of like Man of Steel in that like he has to go on the other side of the planet to save the planet, but like all the people that you want to see him save are like dying horribly because the city's falling apart. It's like that's one thing I liked about Bionicle, the fact that the Toa are around and the Toa would get into trouble and the Toa would show up and save the day. It always felt like the Toa, when they were doing their missions, it felt like they were nearby their villages, and like, you know, they had like a goal that was, it really felt like their main goal was to protect the villages. Here it feels kind of like they've been given this mission from these elders, and they're just focused on accomplishing that mission. It doesn't really feel like they really care about the villagers, and obviously they haven't had much time to develop anything like that, but from the way the cartoons are going, it doesn't really look like they're going to. So something like that. Anyway, back to what my original back to my original story plot. Anyway, so like the Toa end up going and figuring out this stuff. You could have the skull villains be like protect guards, like they'd be like the big enforcers of the secret police or whatever, and the Toa would fight them. And it turns out like you could have the big reveal for next year be that Akimu's not pulling the strings, it's Makuta, and everyone would lose their minds because Makuta's back, instead of what they did last year by basically just starting off and say, Makuta, he's back, and so you're just like, oh, Makuta's back, they're bringing him back, okay. It would actually be kind of like there'd be a build up to it, in that like there's this villain that the original story they'd been building, they like all this crap to beat him and kill him, and then suddenly like we start this new story and he's not here, we don't know what's going on, and then you find out it's him, and it's like, whoa, it's Makuta, he's back, holy crap. It would be like it would actually be kind of like a reveal. I mean, maybe it wouldn't work as well as I'd imagine, but I think that would be a little more interesting from a storytelling standpoint, especially considering they haven't even made a Makuta set yet. So it would make sense in line with all the sets that they've made. This story could still work, and that's something I would prefer, like something a little more focused on the world. Right now, it feels more like we got the heroes and they got to fight the bad guys to accomplish a mission. With the old Bionicle, it felt like they obviously had missions in mind, but it was for the ultimate goal of saving their world, of saving their people, saving like the average people. And that's what was so cool about the original Monster Hunter Online game, even though I didn't get to fully appreciate that when I was little. Like, it really like fleshed out the world. You're a Matoran, and you go through this whole place, and you see how these people live. And then, like, in the rest of the media, you hear about what the Toa do with all their stuff. So it felt like really balanced overall. And I feel like a little more of that would be really welcome, because that I felt like, I mean, that's the message of 2004. The Matoran are the heart of Metro Nui, and they've totally forgot. It feels like they've totally forgotten that this time around.
Yeah, it does feel like that so far, and it's very, very disappointing. But I'm just the optimist here.
I hope it turns around, but and even if it doesn't turn around in terms of a village standpoint, I still hope, like, I mean, in terms of like the people being the people being a driving force for the Toa to accomplish their goals. I feel like even if that doesn't happen, it would be nice if they worked on the sets a bit. Unfortunately, it seems like the main improvements they've been making for the sets have been gone towards Star Wars, because some of the Star Wars clone sets, some of them are average, but like there are a couple of them that like
General Grievous.
Yeah, General Grievous is kind of gappy, but like the Darth Vader body and the Obi-Wan Kenobi stuff, they're pretty decently built, put together, and so they did a good job with like putting those together, which kind of disappoints me in the sense that the Hero Factory shells work pretty well for pretty much every line other than Bionicle, which means that they probably won't make new shells because they don't have that much faith in Bionicle. Or it feels like they don't have that much faith in Bionicle.
Sales do speak, and these have definitely been selling if you look at your local store.
Well, yeah, that's true. I just went to the Target today, and like there were 2 Tahus and 2 Kopakas left, and they're like, when a couple months ago they were like lines of them, so they're definitely selling. And so I really hope that changes Lego's mind towards it, because it feels like it felt like Bionicle was the one that they'd actually take more risks with. And now Ninjago and Chima are the ones that they actually did risks with in terms of actually giving them a television show. And all Bionicle's gotten are a couple minute and a half shorts. So I hope they get to the point where they're actually like, especially with those things around it, I feel like it would make a little more sense to make this thing like the 12-year-old and up crowd. Like the 12-year-olds will like this. Some of the slightly older fans will like a little bit more interesting story with a little bit more grounded stuff than ninjas flying in cars and shooting lasers and sword fighting, spinjitzu, electricity, giant crocodile mech machines and mammoth vehicles. Like, those things are cool, and kids love that kind of crazy stuff. But Bionicle always felt a little bit more grounded, and the skeletons are taking a step out of that grounded reality, and I hope it doesn't get any worse than that. Because, well, I mean, even like you can do zombie stuff in Bionicle, I suppose, but the way they've done it, they just feel kind of like ooh, spooky, boo, skeleton, Halloween skeleton characters. There's the buff one. There's the skinny one with the bow and arrow. They're creepy. They're gonna be wacky, evil villains. I don't know. It just doesn't feel as in tone with what I'd like Bionicle to be. But you can't please everyone, so... And it just frustrates me that like Lego really could turn this into a franchise if they wanted to, especially with how successful it was in its original run. But it seems like they just want to... I'm not entirely sure why they brought it back if all they wanted to do is just like have it be this another kids line, because it just always felt like something different, and now it feels like they're just trying to make it more like all their other stuff, and I just don't know why, because Hero Factory worked perfectly in that as that. And maybe it's just because Hero Factory was getting stale and they wanted to get the name to make the money back. But I really hope they, if that's the reason, I really hope they decide to put more faith in it, go back a little bit more to the original roots, and actually try to tell a story a little more. I mean, obviously you don't have to build everything around the story, because I mean that's what made the original Bionicle great. Even when the sets weren't as good, like the Mystica, 2008 was still a pretty fun story, and pretty cool. So it feels like we don't have that anymore. Like if we got the skeleton villains, if you don't like those, you're pretty much disappointed with Bionicle because the story is not really going to fill that for you.
Okay, one last question before we end this. Of the 3 Bionicle books coming out next year, the graphic novel, Island of Lost Masks, and Revenge of the Skull Spiders, which one are you looking forward to most, if any?
I'm not entirely sure. Those, can you repeat those titles? I actually haven't really heard the titles that much.
The 2 chapter books, the first one will be Island of Lost Masks, and the second one, coming out in December, will be Revenge of the Skull Spiders. And then the graphic novel, I don't believe has a name quite yet, but it will include the Protector's Guide to Akoto.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I assume the Protector's Guide would probably fill in a little bit more of the world. But so that probably would be the one I'd be most interested in seeing, like how much they would deal with the world in that. Like, would the Protectors just be like, here's the Fire Village, people make fiery things here, and that's it? Or on the other hand, would they go into a little bit more detail with it? Would it be a little more like fleshed out, like the original villages were in Vatanui? I don't know. That actually sounds kind of interesting. So that's probably the one I'd be the most interested in, the graphic novel. But those other 2 books, they might be good, but they'll probably still mostly follow the cartoons, and if they mostly follow the cartoons, then I've already seen them for the most part. So they probably won't add too much that I really am interested in seeing. So yeah, that's my standpoint. I'm interested in seeing the graphic novel.
Okay, well, thanks again for agreeing to this interview. It was very good. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested in it.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to do it.
One last question I forgot to ask. If you're comfortable revealing anything, what would you say the future for your channel looks like?
Probably a little cheaper because I got to go to college. It'll be a little bit more reined in than I'd like it to be, but with the fact that I've gotten so many subscribers over the past year, it definitely makes me want to keep going. So I'm gonna, although it wasn't really a threat, but I made the warning at the beginning of the year that this is pretty much my last year of doing stuff. And I don't think that'll hold as much as I like. For people being like, "Oh no, this is it. You got to make your videos now before you go." I'm not gonna be done. I'm just gonna be a little more limited while I'm at college, so I will have to be a little bit more careful with that. But I will try my best. So, yeah, I want to do more Bionicle stuff, and who knows, with my limited resources, I might end up doing more Lego stuff when I'm at college. I'm not entirely sure yet, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, it'll definitely be interesting, and I look forward to what's next on your channel.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And thank you very much again for having me on this cool interview. This was a really fun discussion.
Yep, thanks again for being on.
And I guess that's a wrap. I don't know.
Thank you again for watching, everyone. I'm LQ1998 here with CallanLoF, and I'll see you on the next interview.
Talk to you guys later.